Rain drifted through the crooked iron gates of Willowmarsh Cemetery as Daniel Rourke killed the engine of his truck. He hadn't planned on stopping. He only wanted a quiet drive to clear a mind already bruised by too many failures. But the sound forced him out, a thin, trembling whine cutting through the storm. Near the oldest row of graves, a German shepherd sat hunched against a headstone, soaked, shivering, refusing to move. Her eyes flicked toward him, then back to whatever she guarded, something buried or hidden or left behind. Daniel stepped closer, unaware that this moment would tear open everything he thought he knew about loyalty, guilt, and the dead who won't stay quiet. A small reminder, if stories like this pull you in, feel free to stay with the channel. It helps more than you think. The wind carried the kind of cold that clung to the bones, sharp, persistent, almost personal, as Daniel Rourke stepped deeper into Willowmarsh Cemetery. His boots sank into the wet earth with a soft, sucking sound. Rain pattered on leaves, on old marble, on his jacket hood, building a quiet rhythm that felt strangely like a heartbeat. The German shepherd watched every step he took. She looked young, maybe 2, maybe 3 years old, but exhaustion made her appear older. Her ribs showed faintly beneath her soaked fur. Mud clung to her legs. She trembled uncontrollably, but not from the cold alone. It was a kind of trembling that lived somewhere deeper, where fear and determination met. Daniel raised his hand slowly. "It's okay, girl. I'm not here to hurt you." The dog glanced at him, then pressed her body protectively against the headstone behind her. Her growl was soft, pained, but fierce enough to warn him. "Don't come closer." Daniel hesitated. In all his years working as an EMT, before the mistake that cost him everything, he had seen dogs guard their owners with stubborn, desperate loyalty. But there was no fresh grave here, no body, just a headstone nearly covered in moss. He squinted at the name carved into stone. Caroline Holt, 1956 to 2019, forever in our hearts. The dog didn't belong to a woman buried 6 years ago. Something else was happening here. Rain ran down Daniel's face as he crouched, keeping a safe distance. "Where's your owner?" he asked softly. The dog whimpered, her gaze drifting briefly toward the narrow woods bordering the cemetery, then snapping back to the grave again. He followed her line of sight. The trees swayed in the wind, their branches long and skeletal. Beyond them lay the marsh, dangerous even in daylight. Locals had stories about people getting lost out there, disappearing. The kind of talk that small towns collect and polish into legend. "Did someone leave you out here?" Daniel murmured. A sharp rustle came from the woods. The dog's ears twitched. Her whole body stiffened. She didn't bark. She just stared, as if listening for footsteps only she could hear. Daniel stood slowly, muscles tight. "Hello," he called out. "Someone there?" Silence. Only the rain answered. The dog whimpered again, this time louder, leaning harder against the headstone. It wasn't protection she was offering. It was a warning. Whatever she was guarding wasn't supposed to be disturbed. Daniel wiped the rain from his forehead. Logic told him to leave. The dog probably had an owner nearby. Maybe a farmer. Maybe someone hiking. Maybe... A dull pain twisted in his chest. He remembered the last time he ignored a cry for help. The last time he assumed someone else would step in. That mistake cost him everything. His job, his confidence, and a little boy who didn't deserve the ending he got. So Daniel stayed. He knelt again, voice gentle. "I'm going to get you warm, girl. Let me help." This time, the dog didn't growl. She didn't relax, but she didn't resist. Her eyes were glazed with exhaustion and something else, grief. Her paws were planted on something at the base of the headstone. Daniel leaned closer. Not something. A blanket, half buried in mud, soaked from rain, frayed and small, a child's blanket, pale yellow with faded blue stars. Daniel's breath caught. He reached for it. The dog snapped instantly, not to bite but to warn. Her snarl tore through the quiet like a rip in fabric. Daniel jerked his hand back. Okay, easy." She lowered her head over the blanket protectively, body shaking. Daniel's pulse hammered. A blanket here, guarded by a dog, in the middle of the storm. Something was deeply wrong. He scanned the ground around the grave. No fresh footprints in the mud except his own. No tracks from a child. No blood. No sign of anyone. But the blanket was fresh. Not old. Not weathered. Not something left as a memento from 2019. A child had been here. Recently. Hey! Daniel shouted into the wind. Anyone out here? A kid? Anyone? Nothing. The rain thickened. The sky darkened. And the dog kept trembling. Daniel pressed his hand to his forehead. He needed someone. Backup. A ranger. A cop. Someone who knew the land. But he wasn't exactly welcome in town anymore. Still, he grabbed his phone and dialed the only person who might pick up, Sheriff Mason Price, the morally gray man of Willow Marsh. A friend once. A threat now. A man who believed Daniel was responsible for the accident that shattered the Holt boy's life. The phone rang once. Twice. 3 times. Finally, a click. What do you want, Rourke? Mason's voice was gravel, cold, irritated, always carrying the unspoken accusation. You ruined a family in my town. Mason, listen. There's a dog out here in the cemetery. A German shepherd. She's guarding a kid's blanket. Something's wrong. A long pause. Then, and you're calling me why? You think I'm going to jump because you've got a... Mason, I'm serious. Daniel lowered his voice. The dog looks like she's been out here a long time. And she's scared. Really scared. Another pause. Rain hissed between them. Finally, Mason said, Stay there. Don't touch anything. I'll send someone. Send someone? Not you. But the line was already dead. Daniel shoved the phone back into his pocket. The dog watched him with wary eyes. It's okay, he whispered. Help is coming. Lightning flashed above the cemetery, revealing the long rows of stones stretching into the dark. A gust of wind slammed against him. The dog whimpered again. And then, very slowly, she stepped aside from the headstone. Just a little. Just enough for Daniel to see more of what she had hidden under her body. His stomach clenched. There were scratch marks in the mud. Small. Desperate. Like tiny hands that clawed at the earth. What the... Another rustle from the woods. Snapped his head up. This time it wasn't the wind. He wasn't alone. Who's there? Daniel shouted. No answer. But he heard breathing. A slow, steady inhale, like someone standing just beyond the tree lean. The dog bared her teeth. Daniel reached instinctively for a weapon he didn't have. His eyes strained against the dark. A figure stood between 2 pines. Motionless. Tall. Watching. The rain blurred the shape, but Daniel could see enough to know it wasn't a child. And it wasn't Mason's deputy. Whoever it was didn't move, didn't speak, didn't step forward or back. Just watched. Daniel's heart hammered. Every instinct screamed that he should grab the dog and run, but the figure slowly lifted an arm, just slightly, not waving, not reaching, pointing at the grave. Daniel swallowed hard. What do you want? No answer. Lightning flickered again, but this time, in the split-second burst of light, the figure was gone, as if it had never been there at all. Daniel scanned the woods frantically. Nothing but trees and shadows. The dog pressed against the grave, shaking harder than before. Daniel knelt beside her again. Hey, I've got you. She didn't snap this time. She slid closer, leaning her weight against his leg. That single act of trust hit him in the chest like a blow. Good girl, he whispered. Another crack of thunder split the air. Then he heard it, soft, muffled, coming from beneath the earth near the headstone. A sound that froze Daniel's breath in his throat. A cry. A child's cry. He scrambled backward, staring at the ground, then at the dog. She didn't look surprised. She didn't react like she'd heard something new. She reacted like she'd been listening to that cry for hours, maybe days. Daniel's voice shook. Dear God, someone's down there. His hands tore the mud, scooping away wet earth with frantic speed. The dog joined him, digging desperately. Daniel slipped, fell to his knees, clawed at the ground until his fingers burned. Someone had been buried here. Someone alive. Hold on. Daniel shouted toward the dirt. Hold on, I'm right here. The mud gave way. Something pale appeared beneath the soil. A small hand. Daniel's heart nearly exploded. He dug faster, pulling away clumps of earth until he unearthed more. An arm, a wrist, a sleeve soaked in mud. Oh, God! Oh, God! The child's fingers twitched. Hey! Can you hear me? Daniel gasped. I'm getting you out. Just stay with me. He grabbed the hand gently, terrified it would go limp. The dog barked sharply, once, ears pinned back. Not a warning. A signal. Daniel turned. A woman stood behind him, her hair soaked, her clothes torn, her eyes wide with something between shock and rage. Step away from him, she whispered, voice trembling. Daniel froze. She pointed at the half-exposed child. Step away from my son. The woman's voice trembled, but her stance was steady. Feet planted, shoulders square despite the storm tearing at her soaked clothes. Her eyes were fixed not on Daniel, but on the small hand protruding from the mud. There was terror there, and fury sharp enough to cut. Daniel raised both hands slowly. Ma'am, I'm trying to help him. Lightning flashed across the sky, illuminating the woman's face. Early 30s, pale skin streaked with dirt, a bruise blooming purple along her jaw. Her hair was matted against her cheek. She wasn't just scared. She was coming apart. The German shepherd let out a soft growl. The woman's eyes flicked to the dog. Runa, stay. Runa. So the dog belonged to her. The shepherd immediately lowered her head, but didn't move from the grave. Daniel kept his voice calm. Your son is still alive. I heard him. We can get him out, but I need your help. The woman didn't blink. Back away. Why? Because you don't know what you're doing. She stepped closer. And because you don't know who put him down there. The words hit like static. Daniel's throat tightened. Who did this? Her silence said more than any answer. Another cry rose from beneath the earth, thin, muffled, fading. She gasped and dropped to her knees, hands clawing at the mud. Daniel moved beside her, ignoring the cold, the rain, the fear tightening his spine. On 3, he said. We lift the soil around the sides. Don't pull too hard, or we'll collapse it. She hesitated, just a fraction, then nodded. Together, they dug. Runa joined in, moving frantic but purposeful, as if she'd done this before. Mud caked Daniel's hands, packed under his nails, burned against scrapes he didn't remember getting. Come on, he whispered. Hold on, little guy. The woman's breath came in ragged bursts. He should never have been here. I should have. God, I should have protected him. Daniel wanted to ask more, but there was no time. The ground gave a soft sigh as a pocket of soil shifted. The woman cried out, scraping away the last layer with shaking fingers. A small face appeared. Mud streaked across soft skin. Eyes closed, lips trembling with shallow breaths. A boy, maybe 4, maybe 5. Daniel's heart lurched violently. We need to lift him, he said. Careful, support his neck. The woman slid her arms beneath the child like she'd done it 1,000 times. Daniel helped free the rest of the boy's body, peeling away mud-saturated fabric. The moment the child's torso emerged, he let out a weak, gasping cry. The woman sobbed in relief. Eli, baby, I'm here. She pressed him to her chest. Runa whined, nudging her nose gently against the boy's cheek. Daniel exhaled shakily. He's hypothermic. We need to get him somewhere warm. The woman's shoulders hunched. We can't go into town. You need a hospital. We can't. There was no hesitation. Only certainty. Only fear. The kind of fear that said the danger wasn't over. Daniel stared at her. Rain hammered the ground between them. Lady, your son was buried alive. Whoever did that could still be out here. I saw someone watching us. Her head jerked up. Where? He pointed toward the dark wall of trees. Right there, before you came out. Her face drained of color. Did he say anything? No. Then we have to move. Now. She stood abruptly, cradling Eli with both arms. There isn't much time. Daniel stepped in front of her. You're not making sense. Who is he? She shook her head quickly, panic surging. If he saw you helping us, you're in danger too. From who? She swallowed hard. The man who thinks Eli is his. A cold shock ran down Daniel's spine. What? It doesn't matter, she said, voice sharp. We have to go. Lady, I need more than riddles. A deafening crack tore through the cemetery. Not thunder. A gunshot. The bullet hit the headstone behind Daniel, shattering stone into a spray of jagged shards. He ducked instinctively, grabbing the woman's arm. Move! Daniel shouted. They sprinted toward the far side of the cemetery, Runa at their heels, barking furiously. A second shot rang out, smashing into a marble angel statue, sending its head rolling across the mud. Where's your car? Daniel yelled. I don't have one. I ran here. Then follow me. He led them past rows of graves, slipping in the mud, nearly falling as gunfire cracked behind them. The shooter wasn't rushing. He wasn't yelling. He wasn't chasing wildly. He was herding them, directing them, toward the marsh. Daniel glanced back just long enough to see a figure at the edge of the woods, tall, broad-shouldered, face hidden beneath a hood, the same silent watcher as before. He won't follow if we reach the road, the woman gasped. He hates being seen. Daniel tightened his hold on her elbow. Then let's make it to the road. But the cemetery gates felt miles away. Runa barked sharply. Once. She stopped running and faced the woods, snarling. Runa, go, the woman cried. But the dog didn't obey. Another shot cracked the air, this one hitting the ground at Runa's paws. The shepherd yelped but held her ground, teeth bared. Daniel stopped. He's targeting the dog. He wants her gone, the woman breathed. She's the only one who knows what he did. Daniel didn't have time to decipher that. He scooped the woman and her son toward the truck as fast as his legs allowed. The cemetery gate loomed ahead, rusted bars swinging in the storm. Get in, he shouted as he slammed the truck door open. The woman climbed inside, clutching Eli to her chest. Daniel whistled sharply at Runa. Come on, girl. The dog hesitated, just a heartbeat, before sprinting toward him. Gunfire exploded behind her. Daniel grabbed her collar and pulled her inside the truck a second before another bullet tore through the air. He slammed the door shut. Get down, he shouted. The woman shielded her son with her body, curling protectively around him. Runa crouched low, ears flat, shaking violently. Daniel turned the key. The engine coughed. His blood froze. The hell, come on, come on. Another shot cracked into the side of the truck. The engine sputtered again, choked, then roared to life. Daniel punched the gas. Mud sprayed behind them as the truck lurched forward, fishtailing through the rain, before gripping the gravel road beyond the gates. They didn't stop until the cemetery had vanished behind sheets of darkness. The safe house. Daniel parked behind an old equipment shed near the abandoned mill, isolated, roof half collapsed, but sheltered from the road. He killed the engine and turned to the woman. Who did this? He demanded. Who buried your son? She sat trembling, tears streaking mud across her cheeks. Eli lay in her lap, wrapped in Daniel's jacket, breathing faintly. Runa pressed against her side, nudging Eli gently every few seconds as if checking his pulse. The woman finally whispered, My name is Lila. Daniel waited. And the man you saw, his name is Warren Cade. She swallowed hard. He's Eli's father. Daniel's stomach tightened. You said he thinks Eli is his. Lila flinched as if the words were knives. Warren isn't right in the head. He's obsessive, controlling, dangerous. She rubbed a shaking hand over her bruised jaw. When I finally tried to leave him, he started saying Eli wasn't really mine, that I stole him, that the boy was a gift meant only for him. Daniel's pulse pounded. So he buried your son alive to what? Punish you. Lila's eyes filled with horror. No, he was trying to hide him. From who? From the sheriff. She looked at Daniel with raw, desperate truth. Mason Price has been looking for Eli. There's a custody case, medical issues, legal threats. Warren tried to make Eli disappear before the sheriff could take him. Daniel leaned back, stunned. And burying him alive was a solution? Lila nodded miserably. He said no one would look in a grave that already belonged to someone else. A sickening wave rolled through Daniel. Jesus, Lila's voice cracked. Eli can't be taken to town. If Mason gets him, he'll make us go back. And Warren will find us again. Daniel's jaw clenched. You don't trust the sheriff? Lila gave a bitter, broken laugh. Mason is the one who introduced Warren to me. Daniel went still. He vouched for him, she continued. Said he was good people. They hunt together, drink together, cover for each other. The pieces began shifting, slowly, frighteningly into place. Daniel whispered, Then why did Mason send help when I called? Lila gave him a hollow look. Because he wants to control the narrative. If anything happens to Eli, Mason can claim he was trying to save him. It keeps him clean. Daniel's stomach twisted. He remembered the tone in Mason's voice earlier. Cold, irritated, dismissive. Stay there. Don't touch anything. Daniel had thought it was just Mason's usual resentment. Now he wasn't so sure. Thunder rumbled overhead as if punctuating the thought. Lila hugged Eli tighter. We need to leave Willow Marsh. Tonight. And go where? Daniel asked. You have family? Anyone who can help? She shook her head. Just Runa. And now you? Daniel felt the weight of her trust press heavily against his chest. I'll keep you safe, he said before he could stop himself. Her eyes softened, just barely. Why would you help us? Daniel looked away. The rain hit the roof in a slow, steady rhythm. Because someone once needed me, and I wasn't enough. I'm not making that mistake again. Lila seemed to understand more from that simple sentence than he intended to share. But before either of them could speak again, Runa's ears shot up. Her body stiffened. A low, warning growl rumbled in her chest. Daniel's pulse spiked. What is it, girl? Runa moved to the back window, nose pressed to the glass, hackles rising. Daniel followed her gaze. A figure stood on the ridge above the mill, motionless, silent, watching. Lightning flashed, and for a split second, Daniel saw the glint of metal in the figure's hand. He whispered. He followed us. Lila sucked in a breath. Warren! God, no! Daniel didn't blink. That's not Warren. Lila turned sharply. How do you know? Daniel stared at the silhouette. Because he knew that stance. Because he'd seen it before. Because the man was wearing a deputy's jacket. It's Mason Price, he whispered, and he was aiming a rifle at the truck. The rifle glinted again, just for a heartbeat, before another roll of thunder swallowed the ridge in darkness. Daniel's breath locked in his chest. Mason Price didn't move. He stood like a monument carved from shadow, shoulder-braced. I downed the scope. The kind of stance a man held only when he wasn't warning. He was preparing to kill. Daniel ducked instantly. Down. Stay below the windows. Lila dropped over Eli, shielding him with her entire body. Runa pressed herself against him, her growl rising into a furious tremor. A bullet ripped through the truck's rear glass, showering them with shards. Eli whimpered, a small, soft sound, but it hit Daniel like a punch. He grabbed the steering wheel. Hold on. He started the engine. Headlights flashed across the crumbling mill walls as Daniel jammed the truck into gear. The tires squealed on soaked gravel. The truck shot forward just as another round blasted through the bed, tearing a fist-sized hole through the metal. Lila screamed, Where are you going? Anywhere but here. The truck barreled down the narrow service road behind the mill, roots, potholes, and flooded patches threatening to spin them out. Daniel fought the wheel with both hands. Runa barked wildly, pacing between the windows, her instincts flicking in every direction at once. Daniel risked a glance back. Mason wasn't chasing. He didn't have to. He was driving them somewhere, just like Warren had in the cemetery. Daniel, Lila whispered, voice shaking. He's shepherding us. They're both pushing us into the same place. Daniel's chest tightened as realization crashed in. The road ended in one direction, straight into the marsh. A labyrinth of mud, water, and black reeds where missing people weren't found until spring. If they were found at all. Daniel slammed the brakes. The truck skidded, fishtailing dangerously before coming to a stop on the edge of the marsh path. Mist rose from the water like pale, ghostly hands. The reeds hissed in the wind. Lila clutched Eli closer. "We can't go in there." "We don't have a choice," Daniel panted. "Mason will have the main road blocked. Warren knows those woods better than anyone. They're funneling us." Runa barked once, loud, urgent. Daniel looked ahead. A shadow moved through the mist. A man, tall, broad, walking straight toward them. Lila's breath broke. "That's Warren." Daniel couldn't see his face, but he knew from the slow, confident stride. This man wasn't running. He was waiting for them. Lila's fingers dug into her son. "He's not letting Eli leave again." Daniel swallowed hard. "Get out of the truck. We'll go on foot." "No." Lila's voice was barely a whisper. "If we go into the marsh, he'll hunt us all night." Another bullet pinged off the truck from behind. Mason reminding them the back way was no longer an option. Caught between two predators. Daniel's mind raced. He turned to Lila. "There's something you haven't told me." Tears welled in her eyes, overflowing instantly. "If I tell you, you won't help us anymore." "Try me." She looked at her son, then at the marsh, then back at Daniel. "He isn't Warren's son," she whispered. Daniel frowned. "I figured that." "No, you don't understand." Her voice shook harder. "Eli isn't biologically mine either." Daniel blinked. "What?" She trembled. "I found him 2 years ago, wandering the edge of the marsh. Barefoot, sick, starving. He couldn't speak. He couldn't even say his name." Daniel stared at her. "I brought him home," Lila sobbed. "I told everyone he was my nephew, so they wouldn't take him away. Warren," he figured out the truth. "He said Eli was a gift from the marsh, something that belonged to him. When I tried to run, he took him." Daniel swallowed the rising bile. "So you don't even know where he came from?" "No," she whispered. "But Warren does, and he wants him back." Silence pressed heavy in the truck. Daniel felt the gears inside every terrible moment lock into place. Mason vouching for Warren. The sheriff ignoring signs. The custody threats. The secrecy. The marsh wasn't just a hiding place. It was the origin of whatever nightmare Eli had escaped. Daniel exhaled slowly. "Okay." He opened the glove compartment, hands shaking. He didn't have a gun, just an old flare and a tire iron. He grabbed both. Lila whispered, "Daniel, please don't leave us." He looked at her. Rain drummed on the roof. The engine ticked softly. Runa whined, nudging his leg. "I'm not leaving," he said. "But we're going to have to end this." The marsh edge. Daniel stepped out of the truck. The storm swallowed him. Cold rain needled his skin. Mud sucked at his boots. The wind carried a metallic smell, like rust and wet iron. Warren stood 30 feet ahead, mist swirling around him like smoke. He wasn't holding a gun, just a hunting knife the length of Daniel's forearm. "Evening," Warren called, voice disturbingly calm. "I see you've met my boy." Daniel gripped the tire iron tighter. "He's not your boy." Warren smiled, thin, stretched, wrong. People with no children shouldn't argue about what family is. Daniel took a slow step forward. "He's a child, not property." "Oh, but he is." Warren's smile widened. "The marsh gives. The marsh takes. Eli came from it. That makes him mine." Daniel's stomach rolled. "You buried him alive." "I put him back where he came from." Warren shrugged. He cried. They always cry at first. Daniel felt something inside him snap, something long frozen breaking clean. He stepped closer. Warren raised his knife lazily. "One more step, and I'll carve you open." A gun clicked behind Daniel. "Mason." Daniel didn't turn. He spoke calmly. "You shoot me, Mason, and you're tied to Warren forever." Mason's voice was cold. "Already am." Daniel closed his eyes for a single, quiet beat. Then he ignited the flare. A violent red glow burst to life. Harsh, blinding, screaming light into the storm. Mason swore behind him, stumbling back. Warren lunged. Daniel swung the tire iron. The clash was brutal. Metal meeting bone with a sickening crack. Warren roared and slashed wildly, the knife glinting scarlet under the flare's light. Daniel ducked, rolled in the mud, swung again, catching Warren's wrist. The knife flew, landing in the reeds. Warren lunged with bare hands, fingers clawing for Daniel's throat. He was strong, unnaturally strong, fueled by something beyond rage. Daniel felt his vision blur. Pressure crushed his windpipe. He slammed the flare into Warren's face. Warren screamed, a horrible animal wail, as fire streaked across his skin. He reeled backward, clutching his eyes. Daniel gasped for air. "Lila, run." He didn't have to say it twice. The truck door flew open. Lila emerged with Eli in her arms, sprinting down the side path toward the old mill, away from both men and the marsh. Mason cursed and aimed his rifle. Runa burst out behind Lila, hurling herself at the sheriff with a savage snarl. Mason stumbled, firing into the ground. The dog latched onto his arm, teeth sinking into flesh. Mason screamed, shaking violently. Daniel shoved himself to his feet. Warren was already rising, face blistered, eyes bloodshot, smile cracked and bleeding. "You think this ends with you?" he hissed. "The marsh doesn't let go." Daniel backed away, heart pounding. "You're not getting near that kid again." Warren lunged one final time. Daniel didn't think. He swung the tire iron with every ounce of force left in him. It struck Warren square in the temple. The man collapsed into the marsh mud like a falling tree, silent, heavy, motionless. Daniel staggered backward, panting, chest burning. Mason was shouting something incoherent, fighting off Runa as blood poured down his arm. Daniel grabbed a rifle from the ground near Mason's feet. Mason's eyes widened. Don't do this." Daniel aimed at the sheriff's legs. A single shot. Mason screamed and collapsed. Runa snarled but backed away, limping slightly, for smeared with blood, not her own. Daniel exhaled shakily. Good girl. He dropped the rifle into the marsh. Then he ran after Lila. The ending they didn't expect. He found her on the mill's rear loading dock. She sat under the sagging awning, Eli wrapped in her arms, rocking him gently. Her shoulders shook with quiet sobs, relief, terror, exhaustion, all tangled together. Runa limped toward her and rested her head on Lila's lap. Lila whispered, "Is it over?" Daniel sat beside her, drenched, shaking, heart still pounding. Warren won't hurt anyone again. And Mason, he'll live. Daniel looked out into the storm. But he won't be sheriff much longer. Lila exhaled, a trembling breath. "Daniel, thank you. I don't know how to." "You don't have to say anything." Eli stirred weakly in her arms, eyes barely open, pupils unfocused. He reached a small hand toward Daniel. Daniel froze. Slowly, he took it. It was warm, alive. Something unclenched inside Daniel. Something that had been tight and locked away since the day he lost a child on his watch. The weight he'd carried for years shifted, just slightly, just enough to breathe. Lila watched him softly. "You saved him." Daniel shook his head. "No, Runa did. And you. I just showed up." Sometimes, Lila whispered, showing up is everything. Rain softened to a gentle drizzle. The storm began to lift. Sirens wailed faintly in the distance. Neighbors finally calling the shots they heard. Daniel looked at Lila. "We don't have long." She nodded. "Where will we go?" He thought about it. "Someplace far. Someplace safe. I'll drive tonight. We'll stay ahead of everything until you're ready." Her eyes glistened. "You'd really do that?" Daniel looked at Eli. The boy's fingers still curled weakly around his. "Yeah," he whispered. "I would." Lila leaned her head against his shoulder. Runa curled at their feet. The storm passed. For the first time in years, Daniel felt something warm settle in his chest. Quiet, fragile, real. Hope. And in the dawn's first pale light, as they prepared to disappear down the long road out of Willow Marsh, Daniel realized something. Some graves keep secrets. Some reveal them. And some open the door back to life.